A serious and dangerous new phase has begun in the growing confrontation between Iran and the United States. Over the past 24 hours, tensions across the Middle East have intensified dramatically. Iranian military officials say a large wave of retaliatory attacks was launched against American military positions throughout the region. According to statements released by Iranian commanders, the operations targeted several locations believed to be connected to United States military activity. Iran claims that during these coordinated strikes, more than 200 American soldiers and officers were either killed or wounded. These reports were announced by Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Zolfagari, a spokesperson connected with Iran's Central Military Command. He stated that the strikes were carefully planned and executed against multiple American assets across the Middle East. If the claims are accurate, this would represent one of the most serious escalations in the conflict so far. The situation is still developing, and the true scale of the damage remains unclear. But the reports coming from the region suggest that the confrontation between Washington and Tehran is entering a far more dangerous stage. One of the most significant incidents reportedly took place near Bahrain. This area hosts the headquarters of the United States Navy's Fifth Fleet, one of the most powerful American naval commands operating in the Middle East. Iranian sources claim that an attack near this facility resulted in the deaths of 21 American service members. Several others were reportedly injured during the incident. At nearly the same time, another major strike was said to have hit the Al Dhafra air base in the United Arab Emirates. This base is considered a vital hub for American air operations across the region. Iranian officials say the attack caused heavy casualties among American personnel stationed there. Their claims suggest that around 200 US troops may have been killed or wounded during the strike. These reports have not been independently confirmed. However, they highlight the rapidly expanding scope of the confrontation. Military analysts warn that strikes on key regional bases could dramatically increase tensions and pull more countries into the conflict. Iranian officials also say the conflict is spreading beyond military bases. According to their statements, Iranian forces targeted a US-owned oil tanker in the northern area of the Persian Gulf. If confirmed, this would signal that the confrontation is now extending into critical maritime trade routes. The attacks come after a new round of military operations carried out by the United States and Israel against Iranian targets. Those strikes reportedly occurred on February 28th and were aimed at locations connected to Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Iran strongly condemned those operations. Officials in Tehran described them as illegal acts of aggression against Iranian territory. Iranian authorities claim the attacks resulted in significant civilian casualties. They say many innocent people were killed or injured, including women and children. These accusations have fueled anger inside Iran and intensified calls for retaliation. Iranian leaders say their response was immediate and forceful. In what they describe as a massive retaliation campaign, Iran launched missiles and drones toward Israeli targets and several US military installations throughout the region. Iran insists that its operations are directed strictly at military objectives. Officials say their actions are aimed only at American and Israeli forces. They also emphasized that Iran holds no hostility toward the countries that host US bases. According to their statements, Iran respects the sovereignty of those nations and does not consider them enemies. Still, the growing exchange of strikes is raising fears across the Middle East. Many experts warn that the situation could spiral into a much wider regional war. As military operations intensify, the consequences are already being felt far from the battlefield. Even thousands of miles away in the United States, the human cost of this conflict is becoming painfully visible. At Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, families gathered for a deeply emotional ceremony. The remains of 6 American soldiers killed earlier in the conflict were returned home. This solemn event is known as a dignified transfer. It is one of the most respected traditions within the United States military. During the ceremony, the flag-draped transfer cases of the fallen service members were carefully carried from a military transport aircraft. Standing on the runway was President Donald Trump, accompanied by First Lady Melania Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. As the fallen soldiers were brought home, the president stood in silence and saluted. The moment was quiet, heavy, and deeply emotional for the families who had lost their loved ones. The 6 service members had been killed days earlier during a drone strike targeting U.S. forces stationed in Kuwait. Their return served as a powerful reminder of the personal sacrifices made during times of war. Later, speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, President Trump addressed the ongoing conflict. He described the loss of American soldiers as heartbreaking. "It's a very sad day," he said. The president praised the families of the fallen troops, saying they were proud of their sons and daughters who served their country. When asked whether witnessing the return of fallen soldiers might change his approach to the war, Trump remained firm. He said the United States was making significant progress in its military operations. According to the president, American forces had already inflicted major damage on Iran's military capabilities. He claimed that much of Iran's naval and air power had been neutralized. Trump also stated that missile production facilities and drone capabilities had been heavily targeted. However, he acknowledged that the conflict could continue for some time. When reporters asked whether more fallen soldiers might be brought home in similar ceremonies, the president responded quietly. "War," he said, "always carries a heavy price. And sometimes that price is measured in lives." Breaking news is fast. Understanding takes time. If this helped you see the story more clearly, stay with us.